Hello and welcome to this next episode in our rant series, which the topic is going to be, as you can see in the sidebar and probably the title, is going to be about Jackal. We're going to talk about everything from his loadout to his ability, just kind of my general thoughts on the operator himself, and then we're going to go into how he has impacted ranked play and how he's impacted competitive play. And then to kind of wrap it up, we're going to talk about, does anything need to be changed about him? Could he be stronger? Could he be weaker? Does he need a nerf? But before we go into all that, I kind of want to address a bunch of comments I've seen in a bunch of videos. It seems to be a lot of questions about this kind of stuff. It's really just primarily two things. First is, yes, I've moved to Enix. No longer playing for Astral. I am now on Enix. And the reason for that is because the Astral roster that everyone kind of used to know, like, me, Serenity, Daps, Topcat, etc., after the Rainbow Six Invitational, everyone kind of split up and went on their own ways. Daps left the game. Serenity's focusing 100% on YouTube now. And Foxa went over to a different team as well. But essentially, yes, now I'm on Enix. Nothing like crazy happened. No like giant conspiracy type deal happened. It's just that we are now, everyone's kind of gone and done their own things. So that's that. Just to clear up all the questions I see about it. Now, the next thing is, why haven't you made videos like you used to, like the Valkyrie and the Sledge montage? And the reason for that is, as some of you know, I recently switched, I say recently, but I beat him out a month or two ago. I switched over to a different encoding profile on OBS. Now, by doing that, it's improved the stream a whole hell of a lot, but unfortunately, it means that I can no longer use the previous recording software to get clips that I used to. Now, I am looking to try and find something to replace that, because I do like those videos. I do like those videos. I do think that they are good, and I think that people like to enjoy watching them. But in the meantime, I've just been uploading full matches, just because I don't have the ability to record constantly. I hope that once I find something like that, I'm either going to have to get a new CPU that can handle the processing of streaming and recording at the same time, just because I don't have time to stream for 6 hours and then play the game for 6 hours to get clips. So hopefully, I don't know if I have to get a new CPU or I just have to find a way to make it work. But I would like to do that because I want to start getting back into doing a guide type style. I want to start updating these kind of vlog type things. I find them fun. I really enjoy doing them. I really do. But yeah, so hopefully that'll be a soon TM in the future, maybe. I don't know when I'm gonna figure out how to make that work. But I do understand that I am trying to get back to that. It's just not really a possibility right now. I don't have the money laying around to go get a new like recording rig set up or something like that. But that's that, and let's go ahead and jump back on into the topic of the video and the reason why you're here in the first place, which is Jackal. So let's kind of just give a general overview of Jackal first and foremost. And so primarily what we're going to talk about here, at least in this loadout section, is let's go over his weapons, his just general loadout. So first and foremost, what we can see here is Jackal has 3 primaries, 2 secondaries, and 2 gadget options. Now, Jackal is kind of unique in this 3 primary section. There's a few other operators that also have this, such as IQ or Thatcher. But Jackal really has a killer combo here. He has the C7E, which has 46 damage and 800 fire rate, 800 rounds per minute, a 30-round mag, and has virtually no recoil, which I'm sure many of you have noticed in game. Now, personally, what I've been running on him is the Flash Hider Vertical Grip ACOG, which seems to do pretty well. Very pleased with this loadout. And again, the recoil is minimal at best. Minimal. Or I guess at worst. I don't even know how to phrase it. It's really fun to use, but it almost seems a little bit too strong in that kind of category. Now, his other primary option that I would consider using, we'll get into why, that I would consider using is the PDW-9, which has 33 damage, has an 800 fire rate, a 50-round mag, and has the best hip fire of any SMG in this game, maybe only second to the FMG. Now, the reason why I even bring this up is because this gun can really offer a unique playstyle in that when running this kind of thing, you have a gun that's actually really exceptionally good at CQC engagements, in that you don't have to always be scoped in, which is really great when you're trying to push into a very enclosed hallway or into a closet type room, something that's nearly everything is within 8 meters or less. And then with the ACOG, it also has the ability to deal with long range targets when you're tap firing. And it's just really a unique gun. I would definitely advise everyone kind of check it out. It's a blast to use. It's super fun. It seems kind of trolly, but it does have some merit to it. It does actually have the capability to be used, but it's kind of like that CS:GO style of gun, where you can actually play without ADSing and be relatively successful for the most part. So definitely something to check out. I would still say that the C7E is a superior gun to it, just because of its recoil, its higher damage, same fire rate, and you don't really run into a whole lot of situations where you require that extra 20 bullets. Now, let's go into his final primary, which I'm going to brush on lightly, but I wouldn't really advise anyone would use him. It's not the ideal type loadout. Remember, Jackal is the hunter. He's going to be finding out where people are. He's not really going to be coming around corners in super CQC engagements where you would need a shotgun, a pump shotgun, especially when the C7E is such an exceptionally powerful gun. So I guess just to give a general overview, again, 47 damage, where the next closest pump shotgun in damage would be the SGCQB that the GIGN have, which is 50 damage. Which means that this gun actually one taps pretty consistently. It's a pretty powerful shotgun. I realize that I'm saying like we're not really going to use it, but that's not to say it's not strong. It is actually a good pump shotgun. You can absolutely get kills with it. It's just that for me personally, and for the majority of everyone else, the C7E is going to be your bread and butter type of gun. It's going to be the one that's the best, just because, remember, low recoil, high damage. Remember, the next closest gun has 47 damage, and that is IQ's. Let's see. Let's go ahead and find it real quick, just so I don't misquote myself. But that is the 5.52 Commando at 47 damage, 690 rounds per minute. And that alone, you already see, 1 damage more, but has a fire rate of 110 rounds less. Which just means that the C7E, is undoubtedly, kind of an unquestionably thing for me at least, the strongest rifle in the game currently. So, to take a pump shotgun over what is the strongest rifle in the game at this moment in regards to DPS, is there really a comparison to make? Is there really a tough decision unless you just really want a pump shotgun for some strange reason? And I realize I just said highest DPS a second ago. I think that actually belongs to the FAMAS with its crazy fire rate. But essentially, no. I think this is the best all-rounder rifle currently in the game. Very strong. But enough about the rifle. Let's go on and talk about the secondaries. Now, you're really offered 2 options here. I mean, you are literally offered 2 options here. The USP40 and the ITA-12S, the short version of this pump shotgun here. Now, it really depends. Whichever one that you're going to pick, it absolutely depends on your play style. Now, the USP40, 43 damage, a 12-round magazine, is a great sidearm, and actually it's, in my opinion, I mean, just my opinion, it has the best iron sights in the game. It has the clearest sight picture that I have experienced in this game so far. Very, very easy to line up your shots. I don't know if we can zoom in a little bit more here. There we go. It's exceptionally easy to line up your shots with this gun. Has a low recoil level, and it just sounds so very nice. But unfortunately, if your playstyle is more of the breacher style, you're the person who's kind of going through, you're opening up the floors, kind of playing similar to Buck, hunting roamers, getting the pings, or maybe not even roamers, when you're maybe, like, for example, let's talk about if you are going to be upstairs in Chalet, working on the master bedroom, and you end up pinging someone's footprint that reinforced the hatch and kitchen. Well, if that person is playing below, you might want the shotgun so that you can open up a sight line so you can actually see them. So, he kind of, it's a liberal use of the word, kind of replaces Buck in this aspect. Now, it's not a heavy thing, and it's by no means like, oh yeah, 1-to-1, he's better than Buck in every situation. But he can kind of slide by in accomplishing Buck's role in regards to opening the floors when utilizing the shotgun. Now, for walls, this thing is really hit or miss. You can shoot the thing, and it might just make the pellet holes in the wall, which is insanely frustrating. A super not that great experience. But as long as you generally line up to the wall and are staying about 2 meters away, you can pretty consistently open up a small hole in the wall. But where this gun really shines is in opening up the floors, which is why I even bring up Buck in the first place, is specifically because of that. This gun is, you're really just going to want to use it on floors to open up some vertical gameplay elements, and that's really all you're going to be able to do with it. It kind of works in PvP situations. You see that it has a higher damage rating than its long barrel equivalent, although that seems to be... I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, because it seems to do less damage. It seems to be somewhat less consistent in getting kills than the long barrel version, even though its damage rating is higher. It can absolutely get kills, as can any gun in this game. It's just that the consistency in which you get them is somewhat low. So it really depends on your playstyle. If you're going to be the player that's going to go and enter in above bomb sites and do that kind of thing, you're going to want to try and open up the floor for you or your teammates to shoot through, you're going to want to grab the IDA 12S. But if you don't see yourself as doing that, or if you just generally don't do that and maybe you just want breach charges instead to accomplish the same job, go ahead and grab the USP-40. It's a great handgun. It's never a bad decision. It's just kind of going to come down to play style and whether or not you really value your flashbangs. Because remember, guys, this is going to come down to two different play styles here. Are you the guy playing above? Are you going to play above? Or are you going to be the person that's going to try and push people on the same floor as you? Because if you pick the pistol, you're going to have to pick the breaching charge. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but realistically, you're going to want to grab the breaching charge so that you can still have that element of vertical gameplay to open up the floors and put the defenders in a bad position. But if you grab the shotgun, it kind of opens you up into being able to grab the stun grenade, which should allow you to play a little bit more flexibly and will allow you to take out the roamers a little bit easier if you're properly using your flashbangs, which you should be. Remember, guys, always use your utility. If you're picking something, make sure you use it. It does you no good at all to grab something like a flashbang and then never use it the entire round. They're pretty powerful devices, and they can guarantee you some kills. It's nearly the same thing as having 2 drones in your inventory and then never using them. Make sure you use your utility. They'll get you kills that you wouldn't get otherwise. So, now that we've kind of gone through his loadout, and you guys are kind of familiar with everything, hopefully everyone will remember that. Maybe I'll pop back in if we go into anything super specific. But let's go ahead and go back, and now let's kind of talk about his general ability. Now, in case you don't know, Jackal's ability is to have a Valkyrie camera on his head. It's not actually a Valkyrie. It certainly looks like one. And sounds like one too. And he can see footprints for 90 seconds. 90 seconds. If you've stood on a place, your footprint will last for 90 seconds unless you're Kavera using the silent step ability, in which case she steps in some certain way where her boots don't leave heat marks. Apparently. So these footprints, they last for 90 seconds, and Jackal can then scan them, and they change their heat rating. They go from red, hot, obviously, to like a green to a blue, where they're slowly cooling off. It's a unique ability, and it's not without its downfalls, or really, I guess, areas where people could critique it. It does seem kind of ridiculous in a certain element when I first heard of it, where you can scan a footprint that's, like, let's say 80 seconds old, and then you will then get updates on that player, whoever's footprint you scan. You get updates on their current position every 10 seconds for 40 seconds. That seems kind of far-fetched to me, but hey, I'm not the one who designed it, and it's not super impactful, but it does seem a bit of a reach. It seems like a bit of a reach to me personally. I don't know about you guys, but that seems kind of silly. But essentially his ability to just, in a nutshell, you scan a footprint, you instantly get a ping, then 10 seconds pass, then you get another ping, 10 seconds pass, you get another ping, 10 seconds pass, you get another ping. That adds up to 40 seconds of pings, and you can scan the same footprint 3 times because you have 3 scans, assuming that the footprint lasts for that duration. You'll probably have to find a newer one. But you have the possibility to keep, I guess, kind of your general eyes on a person's location for up to 120 seconds, which 2 minutes, and with a 3-minute round timer, and the fact that attackers don't really enter the building until around 1 minute into the round means that for the most part you can keep tabs on a player for the entirety of a round if you keep marking that one specific person's footprint, and assuming that you haven't killed them by that time. It does seem to be a little bit strong in that element. It definitely is a low risk, high reward type gameplay type deal. Kind of, it's not, don't get me wrong, he's not like a Blackbeard. He's not like that kind of level of stuff, but Blackbeard is also something where it was a low risk, high reward type situation, which really should be avoided. If anything, no, I'll talk about the if anything needs to be changed. That's the later topic. Sorry, I don't want to skip. So that's really what he does with his ability right now. If I had to compare it to anything that's currently in the game, I would give each scan, every time you scan, remember you get 3 scans to scan a footprint, and then once you scan a footprint, you get pings that pop up. Oh, and it's important to note that you and the person you scanned will have a little timer down in the bottom left of your screen. It'll have a little loading wheel, which loads up. It's a countdown timer, essentially, until the next ping goes live. So it actually is very strong when used with your teammates, and you give them a countdown of a 3, 2, 1 ping. The ping pops up, and then your team immediately sprays the wall or sprays the floor, and more often than not, they'll get a kill off of that, because you can only move but so far within a second. So as long as your team sprays either side of that ping on the destructible wall or floor or whatever, you're going to hit them, and more often than not, you're probably going to kill them, or at least down them or injure them in some way. So it's pretty strong when used with coordination, not as strong when used by yourself, but if you get yourself and a teammate or two, which is the typical roamer kill squad type deal, you can pretty frequently end up wallbanging the enemy players, and you get 4 chances to do so. So you get a lot of wiggle room for a single scan that you can do from 5 meters away. So it's a pretty strong ability. But yeah, if I had to compare it to something currently in the game, sorry, I know I got off track and I said that before, but if I had to compare it to something currently in the game, it would be a drone. Obviously, you know, you get a drone, the drone goes in, drives up, and pings the operator that is roaming, and more often than not, the only reason that you ping that operator is because he's seen your drone, so you know he's going to shoot your drone, so you try and ping him before he shoots it so that maybe one of your teammates can get a wall bang. Well, for the most part, that's exactly what Jackal's ability operates like. I would say that each scan would have the value and an equivalent value of 2 drones. So Jackal is an operator that, in my mind, when I'm trying to go through and really kind of equate things to similar factors, I would say that overall, because he has 3 scans, and I would say that each scan has the kind of like the value of 2 drones. He is an operator that has 6 drones from his ability, and the 2 that he starts with. Now, that's not to say, obviously, sometimes you can scan an operator multiple times, or maybe your drone is never found and you only have to use 1 drone to constantly find an enemy. But for the most part, when you're clearing out rooms with a drone, the roamer sees your drone and he's going to shoot it. And there's not much you can do about that. I mean, hey, maybe you're the best droner in the world and no one ever shoots your drones. But realistically, your drone ends up getting shot, typically within a few seconds after entering the room. And then once you've confirmed the player's location, then typically your squad that's clearing out the roamers will get a little bit closer, and then someone will throw another drone to confirm the location right before your people rush into the room to kill them. Now, again, that drone will enter the room, and probably about 2 to 3 seconds later, it will be destroyed. So it's because of that I kind of get the same vibe that this ability kind of acts like a drone in that regard. Obviously, you're not getting the same kind of thing like, oh, he's crouched behind the desk and he's using a pixel peek. Make sure you just pre-fire the wall. You don't get that accurate of information, and that's why even though it pings 4 times, I say that it's only worth about 2 drones. But yeah, I hope that kind of logic makes sense. If it doesn't, I guess let me know. But that's kind of the way that I see it. That's kind of the way that I picture his ability. Now, next, let's go into how he has impacted ranked. Really what I've seen over the past weeks, I think I've played like 150 ranked games so far. He's picked somewhat intermittently. He's not a 100% pick. Even though his guns are quite good, he's still not 100% picked, and the reason for that is because his role is a flex role. His role is someone where you use to fill out an operator lineup. He's going to be that fragging role. Maybe instead of an Ash, you might run him, or maybe instead of like the Buck, if you're running a Buck and a Sledge, maybe you'll drop the Buck because he brings the shotgun and flashbangs if you don't value the nades too heavily. And it's those kinds of things that means that he's not going to be picked every single time unless, I don't know, maybe in your group you have the person who's obsessed with Jackal and does run him every single time. But he's by no means 100% pick rate. He does see play, but it's not constant play. And it's pretty interesting to see how he's affected ranked. He hasn't changed everything monumentally, but he has reduced roaming, and we do see the roaming reduced. And you can't necessarily just attribute it to him. With the introduction of Mira, on-site play has become a lot more effective, so some teams are just playing in sight just because Mira gives them the information to do so. But on the other hand, some of them are playing on site because of Jackal, because they know that a player in ranked where things aren't as coordinated as they might be in competitive, where things aren't as coordinated, Jackal now kind of gives them that kind of level of coordination that you might see with a 5-man stack of team. And it just makes roaming in general a little bit more difficult than it used to be. Especially since you can be marked constantly and have drones under your feet, and you're getting pinged from the drones, you're getting pinged from Jackal. It makes roaming more difficult. And what I've kind of seen a shift to is I've seen people playing pretty aggressively in the first minute of the game. And I'm talking about a lot more outside peeking, a lot more aggression before the operators or before the attackers enter the building. And then once they've entered the building, typically that player will then fall back and make his way back down the site. He'll typically have a path. But again, I guess this is my experience at a higher ranked. But I'm sure that in lower ranks where people just go and run off and sit in a corner and just hide there the whole round, I'm sure that they're having a rough time with Jackal because they probably just don't know how to deal with him properly. But at higher ranked and also competitive, if people are roaming, we're seeing more aggression from those roamers. We're seeing less of the type of roamer where they might hide in a certain area and start pushing in the last minute to try and get a flank. We're seeing less of that, and we're seeing more aggression early. And then those aggressive players early are either getting picks and then dying, or they're trying to get a pick, trying to poke at the enemy team, take down their health a little bit, or get a kill on something like a Habana, a high priority kill essentially. And then they're falling back to site through either a drop down or a stairwell or something like that, and playing 5 on site. Now, in competitive, that is kind of the only play style that we're seeing. We're not seeing a lot of flankers anymore. And for the most part, it's kind of a return to Season 1 and how a lot of teams turtled. A lot of 5 on site gameplay, which means, Fuse a little bit better now. But we're seeing a lot of 5 on site gameplay for the most part. And if they're not 5 on site, they're running either a super heavy room where it's like something like 3 or 4 people upstairs. Kind of a little bit of a cheese strat. It's definitely different. Where they might run a castle and castle off a section of the map, and they're going to play that. They're going to play above the objective. Or they're going to have 4 people on site, and they might have one roamer trying to cause mayhem for the first minute, and then get him to fall back and return to site. assuming that he's still alive. So competitive gameplay has changed a little bit in a similar way to ranked. I mean, I see a lot of correlations between the high level ranked and what people end up doing in like just competition, because a lot of times people are just kind of trying things in ranked to see if they work. But for the most part, the most successful things in competition right now from the defense is that they're either super heavy roam where the majority of the team is playing off-site, mostly directly above, and playing either shooting down, or they're just holding off all of the hatches, kind of like a two birds, one stone, preventing the Habana from going through and opening everything. Where the other thing is four people on site, and they might have a hatch open for the roamer to get back down, or a stairwell that someone's covering in order to facilitate an easy return of the roamer. And the roamer just playing very aggressively at the start, maybe trying to do an outside peek and then sprinting back down to site. So definitely a change of the meta. Definitely things have changed. In Season 2 and Season 3, it was pretty common to have 3 on site and 2 roamers. It was pretty much the standard go-to. Sure, teams still definitely played 5 on site on certain maps, but it was very, very standard to see a 3-2 setup. The 3-2 split is pretty much non-existent right now. Some teams do still run it to some success. So it's not to say that it's totally dead. It's just that it is not as popular and not as prevalent as it was before. It's definitely kind of fallen. We're definitely seeing a little bit less of it. But Jackal's definitely not the only factor in that. We also have things such as Mira and some other operator changes that have kind of influenced the return to site type mentality, or maybe not even the return to site, but rather just an objective area. Whether that be the bomb site, or if that means that you're going to play the room above the bomb site and that's your objective that you're playing. But either way, hasn't been a huge impact, but it has definitely changed some things. So that's going to kind of wrap everything up into the, does anything need to be changed about Jackal? Is he OP? Is he weak? Does he need a buff of any kind? To that question, to the, like, does he need a buff, or does his shotgun need to be better, or anything like that? I think he definitely doesn't need a buff. He definitely doesn't need a buff of any kind. That's for sure. Now, does he need a nerf? Maybe not. It's definitely kind of something that's up to question. The C7E, I would expect to see that rifle changed in some way, whether that's a damage decrease or if it's a recoil increase. I don't know. I would expect to see something different about that, and if the rifle gets changed too heavily, then I fully expect to see people running the PDW. Without a doubt in my mind. The PDW is a great gun. It's just that the C7E is so damn good. Just unquestionably good. The only, I guess if there would be a buff, it would be for the IDA 12S, the small shotgun, the sidearm shotgun, to do a little bit more environment damage. They said that shotgun was primary for the environment damage, but it seems to do so at a very inconsistent level. That's the only, like, I guess, buff, if anything. Just kind of a quality of life type change where the shotgun would be more consistent in breaking open walls. But definitely not a damage buff on that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe in regards to his ability, maybe a scan being taken off. Because right now, it's not a question of, should I scan this foot? Is it worth scanning this foot? It's a question of, oh, there's a foot. I'm going to go scan it. Like, there isn't a decision to make. You have 3 scans. You're just going to scan every footprint that you see. And because they last for so long, you never really run out of them. And the only way to run out of them is to scan 3 different footprints immediately, which, remember guys, if you scan a different footprint and overrides it, it doesn't keep marking the old footprint. So if you do scan a footprint, wait until that timer's up and then scan again. But yeah, it's never really a question of, you never have to think as a Jackal player, like, is it worth it to scan this footprint? Should I scan this footprint, or should I try and wait a little bit, maybe find one that's a little bit newer? If you see a foot, you scan it. You see a foot, you scan it. Because you have so many different scans. So if there was a change to the ability, I wouldn't really change anything about the pings. Maybe make footprints last a little bit less, maybe something like 60 seconds instead. or maybe reduce the scans down to 2 instead of 3. I don't know. Maybe one of those. I'm not going to pretend to be a game designer or anything like that, but I would say either of those options would kind of make him a little bit more reasonable. Maybe the range, he can scan them from like 5 meters away, which is super far. It means he can look from above, have a hole in the floor, and look down and scan a footprint on most maps. So it's interesting. He's not OP. He's not OP by any means. He's not OP, but he is pretty damn strong. So I don't know if they would want to tone him down or not. The only thing that really is like, damn, I really wish they would make that a little bit less powerful. The only thing that strikes out to me is the C7E with its super low recoil and its pretty high damage and high fire rate. Is really the only outstanding thing on Jackal right now. So overall review, he's a pretty good operator. Probably going to see a pick rate of around 30%. It's going to be an operator preference. It's not going to be a Caveira preference. It's going to be like, do we need to have an operator that has nades, or are we going to be bringing something that's just going to fill the role? Are we just bringing an operator to fill a fragging role? And if so, they're probably going to bring Jackal for that. It's going to come down to player preference. And yeah, that's kind of my general overview. Definitely going to come down to a player preference thing for competition. He's not going to be picked all the time. He is a good pick. He's definitely not a bad pick. His guns, very good. Very good overall. But yeah, not a super heavy pick. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this episode of the Rant series. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, it definitely went longer than I thought it would. Really kind of went in depth on this one. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you had fun watching it. But thanks again, guys. Thanks for watching. And remember, guys, if you liked it, please go ahead and leave a like. And even more so, if you would subscribe to the channel, make sure to check that bell and turn the notifications on so you can see the next one of these. And if you guys just generally hated it, or if you just hate me as a person, whatever, click the downvote, but at least let me know why. At least kind of give me some feedback on some stuff as to why you hated the video. But even if you guys liked the video, if you have any feedback of any kind, I know previously people were asking about adding in those little video clips, adding in some pictures and stuff like that, and some graphs and whatnot. I tried to do that to a certain extent today, and I hope you guys appreciated it. I hope that's kind of what you were meaning by that. But again, thanks again for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.